James Corbett of CorbettReport.com with your Sunday update for this 23rd day of January 2011. And now for the real news. 17-year-old Chilean political activist Matias Rojas has become an overnight internet sensation with the release of footage of his confrontation with David Rockefeller in Santiago, Chile, earlier this week.
Rockefellers, come back. We don't want your new world order, you know? Leave Chile right now. Leave Chile. You are not... You're killing a lot of people! You're killing a lot of people! Leave here! Leave Chile right now! Leave Chile! Leave Chile! We don't want your world government! Leave Chile right now! Leave Chile, okay? Leave Chile! Your family is the most disgusting in the world, you know? Leave here! Leave! You also, you're a traitor to Chile! Mr. Agustin, you're a traitor to Chile, okay? You're a traitor to Chile! What you're doing right now, okay? 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 You know everything. You know everything. You're participating with him. You're participating with him in this. Your world government will fail, okay? It will fail! Your world government will fail! Will fail! Will fail! You know it! Leave Chile right now! We don't want you here! We don't want your disgusting thing here! Leave Chile now!
Mr. Rojas appeared on the Corbett Report yesterday to discuss his recent confrontation with David Rockefeller.
We arrived to the airport at 1 p.m. and according to this information, David Rockefeller was coming in a commercial plane. I didn't believe it at the beginning because I thought that maybe my source, who has another source, he was wrong and they have a feed into some disinformation. But indeed it happened. And we were running around like at 1 p.m. in the airport and trying to catch him, catch Rockefeller. And we lost a lot of hope. We asked people, where does a famous person comes out of the airport, from some special door, some special entrance, something like that. But no one knew. Then we turned around to leave the place and we were losing all hope, you know, and he was there. Suddenly he appeared in front of us, leaving the big building and entering to this car where Agustin Edwards was. It was a little time frame since he left the building of the airport, like 60 seconds, and he entered to the car. So it was like a miracle for me. He was in front of us, so I took my camera and I confronted him.
The video of Rockefeller being confronted in Chile has now gone viral, having been seen online hundreds of thousands of times, and having forced mainstream media in Chile, including CNN, to not only admit that the incident occurred, but attempt to address the reasons why the Rockefellers might be so reviled. That David Rockefeller himself, the 95-year-old patriarch of the family and sole surviving member of the third generation of John D. Rockefeller's band of robber barons, should be the target of South American vitriol is no surprise, given his documented role in the promotion of the now-defunct free trade area of the Americas, a proposed attempt to further the neoliberal agenda of sovereignty destruction and economic subjugation under the guise of globalization.
Vice President, I just enjoyed so much your whole speech, but I was particularly pleased that you gave such a strong endorsement for the free trade agreement for all the Americas, subject that has been of great concern to me for many years, and particularly recently, and I think it's absolutely essential for the strength of our economy.
Rockefeller's role in the drive for an FTAA was a lot more central than he portrays. Rockefeller cultivated Latin American leaders who could be counted on to support such a proposal. Both the 1994 Miami Summit and the FTAA proposal were conceived and nurtured by a Rockefeller-created network. Prominent among the organizations sponsoring the Miami event were the Council of the Americas, founder and honorary chairman David Rockefeller, the Americas Society, chairman David Rockefeller, the Forum of the Americas, founder David Rockefeller, the Institute for International Economics, financial backer and board member David Rockefeller, the Trilateral Commission, founder and honorary chairman David Rockefeller.
Although the Rockefeller family was the object of America's scorn in the 19th and early 20th centuries, when John D's ruthless pursuit of money and power was still fresh in the mind of a public wary of the world's first billionaire and his unimaginable political clout, The family has managed to mitigate that image of unbridled avarice in the quest for political dominance by first inventing the PR industry and then using it to convince the world that the family is interested only in philanthropy and charity. In contrast to the carefully cultivated image of the family that gave their wealth away in the interest of humanity, is the reality that the Rockefeller family has been instrumental in furthering the aims of the international oligarchical power structure that has been manipulating world events for generations. The Rockefellers have been the driving force behind the promulgation of eugenics and depopulation programs throughout the world in the 20th century. In the early 1900s, John D. Rockefeller gave $11 million to establish the Cold Spring Harbor Eugenics Records Office, the first major eugenic research center in the United States. The experiments conducted there inspired the eugenics policies, which led to the involuntary sterilization of tens of thousands of Americans, almost invariably poor and/or minorities. During that same period, the Rockefellers also funded the Kaiser Wilhelm Institutes in Germany, which were the center for the Nazi eugenics programs, giving rise to the Holocaust. In 1952, John D. III founded the Population Council, an organization dedicated to promoting the now-debunked fear that overpopulation would ravage the earth and cause mass death by the year 2000. Rockefeller appointed Frederick Osborne, the leader of the American Eugenics Society, as its first president. In the 60s, the Rockefellers funded a WHO-administered task force on vaccines for fertility regulation that developed anti-fertility vaccines, a task force that eventually succeeded in developing an anti-HCG vaccine that caused spontaneous abortions in vaccinated women. In the 90s, WHO-administered tetanus vaccine programs in multiple countries were racked with scandal when it was discovered that vaccines were laced with HCG and causing spontaneous abortions in the third world populations who were being unknowingly injected with them. David Rockefeller continues to promulgate the same overpopulation fear-mongering, always framing the problem so as to posit the United Nations as the only solution, without noting that the UN was built on land donated by his family on the ashes of the League of Nations, an organization founded by Rockefellers and their family allies. Last year, David Rockefeller hosted a meeting of billionaires including Ted Turner, George Soros, Bill Gates, and others, at which they concluded that overpopulation was the world's most pressing problem. In 1973, David Rockefeller penned an obituary for communist dictator Mao Zedong, the man personally responsible for more deaths than any other human in history, in which he praised the high moral and community of purpose engendered by Mao's leadership and claimed his bloody dictatorship and slaughter of 60 million of his own citizens to be one of the most important and successful dictatorships in history. Although the footage of Rojas' confrontation has struck an instant chord with those around the world familiar with the Rockefeller family ties to international finance, globalist organizations, the eugenics movement, and other genocidal programs, this is by no means the first time David Rockefeller has been confronted by a new generation of informed citizen journalists empowered by 21st century technology.
Mr. Rockefeller, sir! Mr. Rockefeller! A citizen's grand jury! Sir, a citizen's grand jury is seeking your indictment. Sir, a citizen's grand jury is seeking your indictment for the crimes of 9/11, sir?
We know about your New World Order.
A citizen's grand jury is seeking your indictment.
We know about it. We won't be silenced about it, sir. We know about it. I'm sorry. National sovereignty will prevail.
Mr. Rockefeller, you will never get your New World Order. We're not your slaves. We are not your slaves.
Last year, the Corbett Report talked to Neil Foster and Dave Derby, the man behind the Sovereign Independent, who had the chance to confront David Rockefeller at the 2010 Dublin meeting of the Trilateral Commission.
It was just chance because, it was on the Sunday morning and the talks were all over by then, but there was still the trilateralists all there. A lot of them would have been there on Sunday. So, and we decided to make our way back down and get some breakfast and that. We stayed in Dublin overnight and we went to get some breakfast, and the place where we went the day before was closed. So at that point, like Neil said, we said, well, why don't we go to the Four Seasons where the trilateral was being held, just for the crack, So we went down and everything just fell into place. And where we sat, there was no special reason why we sat where we did. We just sat there, and it just happened to be the place where Rockefeller walked straight past us. So what are the chances of that happening? Everything fell in place for us. It's almost divine.
Now please go to CorbettReport.com to download episode 170 of the Corbett Report podcast, The Coming Anastrophe, where we ask what Frank Capra's 1946 Hollywood classic It's a Wonderful Life has to teach us about the revolutionary nature of community.